Hello, fifth grade. This is Miss Gibson coming with you with writing for today. So, in front of you, you guys should have the packet of Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, for the Reading and Writing Virtual Learning Packet. So, go ahead and get that out if you don't have it out. Awesome. All right. So, of course, we are going to continue with our paragraph unit for today. I've seen some strong paragraphs last week. So we're going to continue with this unit to get more practice of crafting these great on point paragraphs. Our focus for today is going to be on including specific evidence that proves our point. We know that evidence can be directly quoted and paraphrased, and we need to ensure that it clearly proves our point. So let's get started. I have been seeing some of you guys trying to put evidence, but not putting it in quotations when it's a direct quote from the text. So please make sure you're doing this. And of course, we're going to go through these examples and it will show you, of course, how it should be done. So for starters, we want to ensure that every piece of evidence we use, whether it's directly quoted or paraphrased, is connected to and supports the point of our paragraph. So we are going to read two samples that respond to the exact same prompt. One will include strong pieces of evidence that makes the paragraph stronger, and the other will not. So then you will practice on your own with reading a text and making a full paragraph that fully answers the prompt, stays on topic, and includes strong evidence that helps prove your point within that paragraph because we've already been working on these things, so we should see them done today. Now, we are going to read two samples, and they're both going to be on why does Richie Melville call Donald the Mantis Master. We've all read this text, we've all written on this text, so we're going to look at two pieces of samples that our peers have done. All right, so sample number one. Again, we are tracking for which sample. So I'm going to already tell you which one has the stronger piece of evidence so you can understand why as we're reading through. So sample two has the strongest pieces of evidence and connects back to the point of the paragraph and proves that point stronger. So realize why as we're reading. Okay? Follow along as I read aloud. Sample one. Richie called Donald the Mantis Master because he knew how to save the escaping mantises that escaped from the cage. In the text, it says, they called him Donnie the dung beetle. Donald Hawkins actually didn't mind the comparison. The African dung beetle is known to move things that are 1,000 times its own body weight. But the other kids in Mrs. Beecher's third grade class probably didn't know that. Nobody knew insects like Donald. He figured the dung beetle thing was not a compliment, which shows how the name first came to be, but it also says in the text. Donald couldn't believe his eyes. A tiny praying mantis, barely the size of a grain of rice, scurried across his journal. Donald leaped out of his seat faster than North American Katie did and cried out, hatching, they're hatching. Okay, Donald, I know you've been waiting for this, she said with a smile. Care to take the lead? Donald grinned and called out, Richie, get some paintbrushes. Jennifer, start laying white paper on the floor. The brushes are to sweep the mantises into cups without hurting them. If they're on white paper, they'll be easier to spot. Which shows why, because since he knows a lot about insects, he knows what to do if something like that happens, which is why he's known as the mantis master. Okay, let's get into sample two and figure out why sample two is stronger than sample one. Richie called Donald the Mantis Master because he knew how to save the escaping mantises that escaped from the cage. So realize they both have the same thesis sentence in the beginning of their paragraph. Okay, so they're trying to prove the same point at this. Okay, when the baby mantises escape onto the floor, he tells everyone to scatter white paper on the floor, making them easier to see, thus making it easier to catch it. The text says, Donald grinned and called out, Richie, get some paintbrushes. Jennifer, start laying out white paper on the floor. The brushes are to sweep the mantises into cups without hurting them, and if they're on white paper, they'll be easier to spot. Donnie directed his classmates to help secure all the baby mantises and put them back to the cage. He knew all about the praying mantises, and in this moment was able to show his class the knowledge he knew to help save them. Okay, so we have these two samples, and then we're going to think, why is sample two stronger than sample one? What do you guys think? All right, realize we are working on finding that evidence and inputting that evidence that proves our point. We know sample two is stronger than sample one because this piece of evidence right here allows us to see why he's a mantis master. He knows exactly what to do in order to save the escaping mantises that escape from the cage. So this is connecting and pushing our point here that he is the mantis master because he has this knowledge about how to save them. Now, if we went up to sample one, it begins with something that is clearly off topic here about him initially being called Donnie the Dung Beetle. We don't need this information here at all. Okay, like realize like this is a longer piece of evidence that we don't need. It's not pushing our thesis statement and point of this paragraph. Nowhere in the paragraph or in the sentence does it talk about him being Donnie the dung beetle. So right now this piece of evidence is irrelevant. Then if we go on to the next piece of evidence, we're putting an entire conversation and only separating it with dot 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 and then making sure that it's still connecting and going on but showing that we have some pieces here that helps us prove that point, but it doesn't always state how he knew how to save the escaping mantises that escaped from the cage. Like it's going into other things that we don't also need. Like he saw like a tiny praying mantis barely the size of a grain of rice scurried across his journal. Okay, so these are kind of things that we don't need there, which is why sample one is not as strong as sample two at all. Okay. Now, this also connects to the next point for thinking why is evidence in sample one not strong enough? Again, we know that this evidence is irrelevant to the question that's being asked, which is why this is making sample one not strong at all. Then, when we get into the next piece of evidence, it's not directly getting to the point of the evidence. This piece is one, too long, two, kind of like a run on sentence, even though the dot, dot, dots are there. State what you're trying to say with specific pieces of evidence only, other than trying to include so much because it takes away from the point that you're trying to prove right now. It's just too much. Okay? Now, today, of course, you guys are going to get into your writing prompt for Google Classroom. You need to read and track the story, then type your response. Make sure to create a well developed paragraph that includes a thesis that directly answers the prompt, stays on topic the entire paragraph, and includes evidence that proves your point. So, realize we've been working on staying on topic. So that evidence needs to be connecting to everything that you're trying to prove within that, which is also making sure that you are staying on the exact topic that the prompt is asking you to do. Your secret code for today is cookies. Make sure you spell that correctly on all lowercase letters. Sorry. All right. So the prompt that you guys are going to have is, how can technology help endangered animals? So, of course, you guys need to read this text that is presented to you. Once you're done reading, of course, you need to be looking for creating that point that you are trying to prove, going back to the text to capture pieces of evidence that will prove your point within that paragraph that you are going to be sharing. Make sure if you are doing direct quotes from the text, you are showing it in a way that is proving that it's from the text. So a strong example from sample two, where it says the text says, and then after that it has a comma after says, and then the quote is in quotation marks. So we know as teachers, this is what you are trying to quote directly from the text. Please put this into habit because we need to see your writing getting stronger, which is why we're continuing to do this paragraph unit as well. All right. So Again, you have your instructions here. It says for this question, you will write one strong paragraph based on the passage. Make sure to write your response in Google Classroom so you can receive feedback from your teacher. Your writing should present and develop a strong idea, provide evidence and or details from the passage, and of course, use correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation. So this goes into all of your writing that you should be doing. Make sure you are doing complete sentences as well and not trying to do a whole bunch of run-on sentences. You should be trying hard. This should be one strong paragraph, not one sentence. So make sure you are doing what you need to do to get all of the points for your writing for today. All right, so you guys can go ahead and get started for writing. Again, make sure you are coming back to this text and pulling out the strong pieces of evidence to prove your point. For the prompt today, how can technology help endangered animals? All right, enjoy your Tuesday. Have a great day.